What's up, people, family, community? What's going on? My name is Sean.
And I'm Delisa.
And we are
The
Perrys. Hey, so while we've been on this paternity leave and maternity leave, we've had an opportunity to catch up on
movies we missed.
Shows. Yes. I've read. It's funny because I was reading more before than to now. I'm currently reading the Bible, Genesis, as I do every year.
Mm-hmm.
But more so, I'm focusing on like reading physically instead of more so audibly hearing it from the Bible app, which has been interesting. I've been enjoying it. I was reading Never Split the Difference, and there's a devotional on Proverbs by Timothy Keller. It's called Wisdom. I can give you the description in the link if you like those two books. And then I think that's it so Never Split the Difference, the devotional, and the Bible. I love reading. I'm a learner, love to learn.
And he just got finished with school last year.
Yeah.
As we told y'all.
Yes. So I was very excited because the first book that I started reading that I didn't have to read, and it was like not even like a theology book. It wasn't anything like that. No leadership, nothing. Well, technically it is, but it's Never Split the Difference, right? And so I was happy, and I was actually like reading the book and enjoying it. We got to watch. We watched a couple of good shows on Netflix, and
there's a lot of watching while you're feeding. So
yeah. And there's a lot of watching while you're in between feeding, cooking and picking up kids.
The adult person.
Yeah. So it's been cool. Got to watch some football. It's been cool. One of the shows or movies that I watched was Jesus Revolution.
Yep.
Right. So I'm not a big proponent of Christian movies and everything because I feel like the quality
it can sometimes be cheesy.
It can be cheesy, and we're not talking Hallmark cheesy, right? But like the production quality is low, and it's like ugh, right? And so we have to watch these movies, and it's supposed to represent us, and it's fine. Yeah, the baby
he lost his posse.
That's all good. So for me, I was like, I don't know. Is that Shawn Michael Brown?
Mm-hmm. They must be in sync.
When he was fussing, and he was fussing. Or when he was fussing, Shawn Michael was fussing, Cap was fussing. You good, baby. So Jesus Revolution, I'm going to stay right here. I'm going to camp right here, right? So Jesus Revolution. And I was like, man, I heard a lot about it. And it was really good. So in studying for school, I read about Lonnie Frisbee and Greg Laurie.
Yes.
Well, yeah. So I read about them, and then I watched Ruslan's podcast with Greg Laurie on there, right? And so I'm familiar with the people. Then even Mars Hill talked about like the movement of the mega church, so on and so forth, right? So I've done historically, right? And then even the whole 70s, just the Jesus Revolution.
Mama Barbara talked about like that was her scene.
Yeah.
She was one of the people during that time in the living room with the guitars and stuff, and they were just freely worshiping God and all the things.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I've read enough about it. And so I was like, man, how's this movie going to be? And man, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know if it's because it's just I got a lot of pent up emotions and they need to come out. But as I was watching the film,
did you cry?
I did drop a couple tears, and like literally like a couple of tears. It was a very touching movie. What was touching about it was the purity of it. Like you can see, there were wanted scenes in the movie that you can just see like Greg Laurie, like he really just wanted the truth,
and he wanted family. He wanted something that lasted.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, I get you, I understand, And then he's like, man, I just don't want to be let down, And so I was like, that's cute. And then what was also very touching was how down his chick was. Like she was like she was with him. She was ride or die.
Whether you're rich or poor.
Right.
And right now you poor.
Yeah. So that didn't matter. But what mattered to them was even like all the drug trips. And it's like I remember, being in that state. And I don't know ass or nothing like that. I just smoke weed, okay. But just being high and like after you come down, looking for something, like constantly searching for something. After you come down, just like you're like, oh, that was great. And so you want to go get the next blunt and so on and so forth, right? But I resonated with that. And so Greg was like, man, I just want something real. And then she was trying to figure it out because her sister had the near death experience, right? And so I really resonated with that. And so I think what really touched me, then I started thinking about church.
Yeah.
Like just the way, because I came to you and I talked to you, right? And I was like, oh, it's a Western church, and I was like, oh, I'm so sick of the Western church and how we do church. And I was like, just kind of, right? And then I finished the movie. That was in the middle of the movie. Then I finished the movie and I started thinking, and I watched it on a Sunday, right? So I watched your message, okay? And then I started thinking about it, and it's something that the previous senior pastor would say, and our current senior pastor would say, is, hey man, like what you're in the middle of a move of God, and all we know is just well, all I know, like from a serving aspect, like just going like all in at a church is the church that we're at right now, and so I would hear that and just be like, okay, whatever, but when that's all you know, that's all you know. But then when you take a step back and you really think about like, no, this is a move of God. Like even the campus that we're at, the amount of people that are there, like look at Greg, the church, not
the one that Greg Laurie was teaching the youth at, and there was like 10 of them in there.
Right. Yeah. Or even, was it Pastor Clark?
Pastor Chuck?
Pastor Chuck.
Before Lonnie came in there, like it was like 25 people in there.
Right.
Which I tell him this all the time. I'm like, there are churches, 1,000, 1,000,000 churches around America that have 30 people in them. 30. And they're great with their 30.
Yeah.
So when we see people that is like, when you see 30 salvations in a weekend, that's not like, oh, that's just normal. It's not. It isn't.
Again, this is all I know.
Growing up, that's not what I saw.
Right.
We didn't see thousands of people being saved every year. It was the same people. And they may or may not have a cousin once a year that comes in that may be saved. And that's, you might get a salvation a Sunday, if even a salvation, because it might just be all the same people that come there shouting and screaming and running around the church that were there last week and the week before. So it's not like it's when you're in something, maybe some of those people, when you're in it, it's like, oh, this is the norm. And it's not exciting because you think it's normal, and it's like, this is not normal.
And that's something that Pastor Daniel would say, hey, this isn't normal. And so it's like, and I was like, oh, well, God, like, show me what's going on. And then I started, when you go to seminary, some people joke about it, call it cemetery. So the more you know, knowledge is not necessarily bliss. And so the more you know as a Christian, as a believer, the more you grow in your faith. Sometimes the miraculous or like simple things aren't simple anymore. They become so complex. And that's something that I was, I won't say necessarily lamenting, but just reflecting on. It's like, man, like maybe lamenting because like all they wanted was Jesus. And you hear, even in seminary, oh, it's so simple. The Bible is so simple.
They wanted Jesus and they wanted to feel accepted.
Yes.
And so they are all looking for acceptance and love. And to find out, oh, there's a God who does love me, who does accept me, and I don't need this to be accepted. I don't have to do drugs or have a trip to be accepted. Like, basically, I can get high for Jesus. So cheesy.
But then, even in the church, you don't look like me, you don't sound like me, and you're outcasts or the lost, these hippies from the movie. It's messing up the church.
Oh yeah.
And the donors, the people that put money in it, they don't like it, so you need to change it, or they're going to withdraw their money.
Them not wearing shoes is dirtying our carpet.
Yo, I was like, but you're wearing shoes. At least they're barefoot, right? But this is people. Men are flawed. People are flawed, and people really be thinking like this. And their thoughts are, I want to keep the holies of holy, right? If that's the case, take your shoes off before you enter into the sanctuary.
Wash your feet.
Wash your feet.
Which Pastor Chuck did wash their feet.
Yes.
Which was that for me had me a little bit teary-eyed. It was like, and his daughter went back and said, like, in the movie, I don't know what happened in real life, but like for him to go to the heights that he went to show that he cared for the people that other people would throw out. For me, that was touching. Like to sit there and have a whole line of people and you are literally, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna wash people's feet at the door. Not everybody's feet. No. And he sat there and washed every one of their feet and dried them off as they walked into the church.
And that's, I think it's great.
With a smile.
With a smile. And that's what Jesus did for his disciples.
Yep.
The King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, came down to earth and washed his disciples' feet. You know, like that's servant leadership. That's how we as Christians should be serving one another. Right. And so I was like, man, the simplicity of the gospel. How do we
convoluted? I don't know how you say it. We make it complex.
Yes, we do. We make it complex, and we convolute it with our ideologies, with, you know, we take not everything, but we take things out of context and put it in our context. And I feel like sometimes by us wanting to make things holy, we push God out of it, and we become very like the Pharisees, because we have to follow this law. We have to do this. We have to do that. But man, like, I was convicted, I guess. That might be a fair word to say, because it's like, well, God, I want the simplicity. Like, help me to keep the simpleness of the gospel. And like, even like stuff that always just fascinated me, the Billy Grahams, right? Like, you got one message. Jesus came.
The gospel.
And the gospel. Like you're saying, the gospel. He came. He was born of a virgin. He lived the life that we couldn't live, and he died the life that he died. He died the death that we should have died. And if we believe in him, we believe in our heart and confess with our mouth that Jesus is Lord, then we can be saved, right? So even in the movie, like, dude, when Greg was getting baptized by Lonnie, right? In the water, he was about to get baptized. He was like, do you want to do this? And he was like, having some, man, I want to, but I can't, right? And so then he accepted Christ. He said the prayer. Then when he went underwater, I love how the symbology, the symbolism, right, of the death. And you saw him reaching up for the light. And then when he came up, like, he was alive. He had the Spirit of God inside of him. I thought that was a very good way of capturing what it means to die and to be born again.
What baptism truly is.
Yes, man. And I even like the fact that Greg Laurie was the executive producer, or he helped to direct the movie. And so he's directing, and he paid. They didn't do Lonnie Frisbee. They didn't do Lonnie wrong, right? I feel like they did.
They did him justice.
They did him justice.
He
right?
did have pride, so they did show that.
Yeah, right.
You had to.
Right, and so even with the baptisms, man, like, I don't think in history, I don't think that's ever been done. Like, such that magnitude of that many baptisms at a point in time. And I think even filming the movie, y'all fact check me on this. I think people were still getting baptized. Like, people were actually getting baptized.
That's what people said, that people wanted to get baptized. And actually, Greg Laurie's church, Harvest, they do still baptize in that body of water.
Pirates Cove, I think.
Yeah, Pirates Cove in California.
And then something else that struck me was, you know, I talked to you about ambition.
Yeah.
Right. And I is it fair to say I'm an ambitious person?
Sean likes to. You're more of a visionary.
I'm a visionary. I'm gonna go get it.
Yes, but you like to set a fire. Let's go start it. Let's go do this. And then you're like, okay, cool. I started that. Now let me go start something else.
Yeah. So starting something, right? And do you like this? Cool. Let me train you up, right? Empower you. Okay, you got it. Okay, everything's good. It's good. It's good. Okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna deuce out if you got it. I'm here for you if you need me. Like, I love to empower people, to lift people up, and to help put people on. You know, and to help start. Like, we can ignite this together. Let's go, right? But there's gonna be a point in time to where it's like, well,
what, the Bart Simpson?
I'm afraid, because I've given this to you. The spark is kind of you know. Let me go help start something else, but I'm here for you, right? So I was like, man, like, where, you know, am I missing something, right? Like, you know, I feel like we're doing a great job, and well, I said before, you know, God has called us to where we're at. I love our campus. I love our family, our church family, and I love what we do. You know, it's really fun. And it's like, well, do I need to be doing something else? Right? Like, am I okay? Cool.
Am I doing enough?
Am I doing enough? Like, am I missing something? Right? And so that can cause me to get anxious, in a sense, like, okay, I know you told me to be here, right? Is there something else that I can be doing? Like, do I need to go start something else? Do I need to go do something else? Right? And so, Delisa is a great reminder. She helps remind me of you know, what's the last thing God told you? Okay, cool. Well, are you doing that? No. Okay, well, how about you go do that? Right? Let's do that. Let's focus on that. Right? And so, and it helped me to think about that like the ambition.
Yeah.
that led me to where you're a part of a movement right now.
Right. Yeah.
You're in a move of God right now.
So even though you may feel, oh, I just play a small part in it, like
no, but we really don't. Like if you come out to our campus,
you're impacting lives.
And no matter if it's 2, 5, 50, 100, 500, whatever, we're still impacting lives. And like that's what it's about. And then you really never know that you're inside of a movement until you look back, till you get out of the movement, or like time has to pass by before you realize that you're inside of a movement. And so then it's like, well, how do you capture that and still be in that moment? And I feel like I have a difficult time just being in the moment.
And I often have to remind him to not make idols, but make monuments of like, so if there are things if there's a card or something that somebody from the campus will give us, I keep those because I want to look back at them one day and be like, man, I was able to impact someone's life. If I feel I'm on maternity leave, I'm not really doing much. I'm impacting one life at the moment. I'm still loving on my other kids, but and so like anytime I forget that, hey, God is using you, you do have a purpose, and even though it may seem like at this moment in this season you're not doing much, like you've impacted lives. And so I keep those things to remind, even text messages and different things, just to remind myself. A lot of times when the children of Israel, when God would do something, Abraham, when God would do something, they would either put a stone there or build an altar there before God to say, God, this is what you did in this area. And so I remind myself to do that. And I have to remind Sean too, to, hey, make memories of those things. And so then I'll remind him, oh, this, and we were able to do this, and this. And he's like, oh yeah, forgot about that. And I'm like, how? And so I think it's just reminding you of the now and the before, just to realize that, hey, stop looking at tomorrow, just be in the now and the today.
That's so difficult for me because I live in tomorrow. And so like I miss all this. And then on top of that, like I have to do stuff a certain way, like with the kids, right? I'm yelling at the kids. I was telling our therapist, man, like I'm failing. So like being tormented by that. This happened during COVID, and then it happened again, but not so much. Like, man, I'm failing as a parent because I'm yelling at my kids. And so because I'm yelling at my kids, and I don't want Madison or my girls to grow up to marry
an abusive
man, and I want them to be empowered, so on and so forth. So I go there
to the deep end, to the like
deep
the far dark end.
Correct.
Then I'm like, well, let's pull you out.
Pull it back. But then it's like, well, yeah, I didn't even fail. I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Right. But then like to make that mistake, to go throughout the day, to make the apology or whatnot, but then to do it again the next day, to me, that's very tormenting. So like mentally, that's all that will loop around in my head. So our therapist was like, no, you didn't fail, and she's not going to do that. She's going to marry a man that's like you, in a sense, all the good qualities. And so she really helped to help pull me out of that, and to just remind me, and just to really affirm me, that, hey, it's okay. You're doing an okay job. So I'm living out there. And so then it's like, well, I'm not making enough impact. And it doesn't matter about the people that got hurt by a church, right? They're going to church now, and they're serving, right? Or the person that, is new to church, right? I really like this. And you have conversations with them, have one-on-ones with them, and mentor them, so on and so forth, right? Like that's making, or the person is like, hey, my marriage isn't tight. The persons that are like, my marriage isn't tight. Like, can you pray for me? Can you help me? Right. Or the people that I get to impact as far as like being a Bible nerd. Hey, you want to learn how to read your word? Hey, let me show you how to do this. Right. Or, we're impacting lives. And so if I'm so focused on the future, or if we get focused on the future and think that we're not being impactful now, I think we're robbing ourselves, and we're not honoring God in the process.
Yeah. And I think at the same time, it goes back to, it's not about me anyway. So wherever God has called me to be, and whatever impact he's called me to make, it's on God anyway. Because just thinking about some of the people that you've mentored and that you're mentoring, like, it's not just one, it's not about you. You're allowing God to use you, and what's inside, what God has placed inside of you, you're sharing with others. But at the same time, you're not just impacting that person. They're literally changing the trajectory of the generations that are coming out of them.
We're doing that because you do that as well.
So it's much bigger than. But for me, it's I know that we're being obedient to God, and that's all that matters to me.
I think it's difficult with that because as long as I'm obedient, it's easier for me to say that when times are hard. You know what I'm saying? Like if we're going, when we went through a rough patch, and I was kind of casted off, just sat in the corner, right? Like I was fine because one, I'm gonna be impactful, right? Mm-hmm. Two, I'm not a quitter. One, I'm not a quitter. Two, I'm gonna find a way to figure it out, right? Like I'm a resilient person, and so I lost my thoughts. Sorry.
You do better in the rough times,
right. I do better in the rough times. Or God got me, and this is where I'm at. But
I'm like,
those are things I can't control, though.
For me, it's like, God, can I call fire down from heaven now? Yeah. And on them, mm-hmm. So I have to put myself in check because my emotions.
But then it's not about it's not about us.
Yeah.
And then God constantly tells us, "Hey, I got you." So what I would love is to put that, like when I am in the furnace or when I am, in the lion's den, I would love to apply that same faith to when I'm on a peak, in a sense, right?
On a peak or in a consistent place.
In a consistent place, right? Yeah, in a consistent place. I would love to, just be like,
we're not chilling. We're doing whatever God has called us to do, right. But it's not bad.
In the between, right? And so that's what I thought about with the movie.
Yeah,
it's the simplicity of everything, mm-hmm. and like God is gonna do it. Like if you pray, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes He answers it right then and there. Mm-hmm. But as we've learned throughout this pregnancy with Cap, and like all the many things that God blessed us with, the things that we prayed for, like the things that we prayed for from January on through December, right? Mm-hmm. He literally blessed us with like we wanted a king size bed, right? Blessed us with a king size bed and a mattress. Come on,
that we didn't have to pay for.
That we didn't have to pay for, right? Mm-hmm. He blessed. Oh, nightstand would be great, right? Got 2 nightstands I need to put together, right? Those mm-hmm. came through. Lord, how are we going to pay for, this at home birth, right? He's
You're not gonna have it,
right. You're not gonna have it, right? So that he's working that out, right? Just God, it's very simple. So if we decree a thing, if we pray a thing, and we have faith the size of a mustard seed, and we believe that God's going to take care of it, like that's the life I want to live. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I don't want to be worried and anxious like I was for like a month or so.
Yeah.
Or more.
And I think that goes back to putting it all on God, because even the whole situation where basically Lonnie felt like he had it on his back, mm-hmm. and it was like, I have to do this. Like he gets up in the middle of the service and
somebody's deaf in their right ear.
I believe that God is faithful enough, that He's loving enough, that whether we're in worship or somebody's praying, that He can still heal a person's ear. Mm-hmm. You don't have to you don't have to stand up and say anything. Mm-hmm. You don't have to go lay hands. I believe that God is God enough. Mm-hmm. We can do it with or without us putting our hands to somebody, us saying the words. Yes, God tells us to say the words. There are times for that. But at the same time, when we put it on our backs, anything that we put on our backs, whether it's in our own personal lives mm-hmm. or in ministry or whatever, I feel like whenever we put it on our backs, then we say, well, I'm the vessel that is doing the thing.
That's that pride.
Yeah.
When pride creep in, and that's dangerous.
It's no good. No good. And causes us to spiral into a bad place.
Yeah. And the Lord will sat your tail down. Not sit your tail, He'll sat your tail down.
That has happened multiple times with ministry leaders.
Yeah.
And it happened with Lonnie in the movie. Like, if you know the history past the Jesus Revolution movie, like he goes on to, have all these other things in his life that come up that were habits from the past that came and peeked their head around, and he wound up dying of AIDS, I believe, in 93. Mm-hmm. 93, yeah. And so
they put that on the movie, but if you know,
they read it. They said that he died in 1993.
Yeah, they say what cause.
Yeah. And so there are different things that come up when we feel like, oh, I have to put this on my back, and it's mine to carry. I'm sorry, if I decide tomorrow to not obey God anymore, God will find someone else to do it, because He is God. Mm-hmm. Regardless, it's bigger than me. However, God is choosing to use me, So as long as I'm obedient,
Mm-hmm.
God used me.
He used you, or he partnered with you?
He partners with us. He doesn't use us like a wet mop.
Yes.
He partners with us.
He partners with us. God wants to partner with us. We were doing a devotional with the kids, and I mean that's interesting. You know, God. We know God as it is. We know God as a father. We know God as a friend. We know God as, you know, a savior. But we also, God is also, he wants to partner. He's a partner. And so what does it look like? I think that helps too, like with the, God created us for something, right? So the ambition, right? And I'm not going to go into the, you know, healthy ambition, but whatever, right? I'll leave that where it's at. But I believe God places desires inside of us.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And so those desires, if we're chasing God, and we feel like it's from God, and we go to that, I believe God is gracious enough to allow us to walk and pursue that. And then God is also gracious enough to tell us that, hey, indicator, hey, you missed your exit.
Yeah.
Or you missed this, right? And he'll bring us right back. Redirect us. But I think for a long time, some of us, for me, I was scared to take that step. Some of us are scared to take that step. But if we feel like that is what God is saying, what telling us to do, then man, ask for confirmation, right? From your spouse, from a mentor, from a leader, or, you know, got to give you confirmation.
And I think, I don't know if we talked about that before or not, but with us, like whenever we know that like it's solid, this is what God is saying. Like we come together without even talking about it and are saying the same thing. And we're like, obviously that's God.
Yeah. I mean, but it's sometimes it's difficult because it's like, well, we wanted our timing. So I think I'm learning now, even from watching the movie, it's like, man, God is going to.
God is slow. I was like, not slow, just on his time.
That's what I told him. I was like, man, God is slow, man. But no, it's on his time. But then I think he's working out our character. He's working out the things out of us. He's refining us to be prepared for it. And then something else that I thought about was like, man, like just being ambitious, right? You see so many celebrities, so many movies, so many different scenarios to where the person reaches the top. And it's just like, well, I have it now it is. Right. And so we're, as human beings, our nature is to keep on going. Like this is an unquenchable flesh. Right. And I just want to get to a point, because I can be like that, right? Like I got this, I got these, I got that. But once I get it, it's like, okay, on to the next. When we get old, right, we're going to look back, and the things that we're going to think about is, man, I wish I had more time. And particularly for me, I don't want to be that old person saying, I wish I spent more time with my kids.
Yeah.
Like this stage that we're at, this season that we're at, like I really, Pastor Daniel said this, he said that the years are short, the days are long, right? For me, in certain seasons, the days are fast and the years are even faster. Right. And so I don't want to be like that.
Don't want to miss those moments.
I don't want to miss those moments to where you talk to older parents, they're like, man, I miss those moments. You miss the crying, the fussing, all that, you know, that's we thinking, you know, but I receive that and I resonate with that. Not necessarily resonate, but like I receive it, and I don't want that. I take heed to that, right? I don't want to miss it. And so what we have to do is slow down. Something else Pastor Daniel said was, when we're anxious, we're robbing ourselves of rest.
Yep.
I was like, man, that was so good. Like I was very anxious, December and it was November.
Probably later half of November.
December.
The closer we got to this birth.
Yeah.
Now I wonder why.
Yeah, my guy Ryan be like, man, I'm so excited. You know, can't wait for baby Christopher to get here. And I'm like, I can, you know, because we didn't have everything, you know, planned out. And so it's like I
wasn't ready.
Wasn't ready, man. And so I was stressing about that. I think finances were stressing me out. Which is really, you know, what's really cool though? What I wasn't stressed out about?
What?
Church. So we built the team, you know, our leaders are capable, and like we have a good thing there. And so I wasn't stressed out about that. I know everything will be taken care of. I was stressed out about really finances and like how
it's all going to work out.
How are we going to do this? How is it all going to work out?
Got another child.
Yeah.
Another mouth to feed, another daycare bill, another this, another that, another.
Amen. Right. And so, but God is, and I'm learning, he is working it out. Romans 8:28 says all things are working together for our good, right? For those who are called,
Yeah, say the whole thing.
Yeah,
Because,
for God so loved the world. We are called according to
for those who are called,
according to His purpose. Those who love Him and are called by Him. I'm paraphrasing, but those who love Him and are called by Him, right? Yeah, say the whole thing. All things working there for good. You called by Him and you love Him, right? You've accepted Him. Okay, cool, right? So all things are working there. Okay, cool. So you're working something out, and so I'm just really seeing like there's a delay, even with Daniel. Not Daniel. Daniel, right? In the 21 days.
Oh yes,
right.
When God had already worked it out.
He already received in the heavenly. He already received the prayer.
They were waiting for it in the natural.
It took some days to get in the natural. So what would it be like if what we prayed, we believed it, and we just left it there?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I want to be. Like how less stress will we be? How rested will we be because we know that God's going to take care of it
and truly believe in our hearts,
right?
Our hearts, our mind, all of it.
No matter what it looks like, we've been in those situations. We've talked about this before. Like without Romans 4, Abraham was fully convinced. One of my favorite verses. He was fully convinced that God was going to do what He said He was going to do. And so, if you're fully convinced,
even though Sarah's womb was as good as dead,
it was as good as dead. He was fully convinced that God said He was going to do what He was going to do. So, what would it be like to live a life fully convinced? And how can we practically do that?
I think it's like I said earlier, reminding ourselves of past times when God has done those things. Mm-hmm. Praying and seeking His face, keeping the word in front of us. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of times, and knowing that word, it still works. Mm-hmm. He's the same God yesterday, today, and forevermore. Mm-hmm. It's the same God that was there with Abraham and Sarai turned Sarah. Mm-hmm. Is the same God with us today. Yeah. The same God that made the covenant with David is the same God with us today. And so reminding ourselves that the word still works, to pray the word, reminding ourselves of how God came through before. And then the rest of it, like you just have to rest and trust in Him. Mm. Rest doesn't necessarily mean sleep, but staying in His presence, whether that be for you. For me, it's worship. Mm. For you, that is reading His word, that is getting into some type of book that coincides with His word. Mm. And for different people, it's different things, but constantly keeping those things before us, because with media, with the world, with everything else, it's contrary to what God is saying. And so it'll always try to grab our attention and want us to think about those things. Oh, to scroll on Instagram or Facebook and be like, well, God, you did it for them and they're not even saved, or all the things that we can think of when we allow the world in. So keeping God, His word, worship in front of us, and reminding ourselves of the prayers that He's answered. So I think both of us both journal. We journal like God, things that we're praying for, things that God has done, prayers that God has answered. Mm-hmm. And so things that God is telling us that we feel like God is saying in those seasons or those moments. And I feel like going back to those things, reminding us, God said He would do this and He's done it. God gave me this vision and now we're walking in that vision. Mm-hmm. I think when you keep those things in front of you and keep His word and His promises in front of you, it helps you to, when those moments of anxiety come, we just have to be willing to be in those moments where it's okay to look at the word. And even though we don't want it, because there are times where we're like, we're so anxious or we're so in the situation or so in the storm that I don't want to hear that scripture right now. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going through it. Don't you know what I'm going through?
I don't want to hear the truth right now.
That's what it is.
I don't want to hear the truth right now.
I want to wallow in the thing that I'm wallowing in right now. But I think whenever
man, that hit me. That's so, jeez.
I think whenever we continue to put our focus on Him, that helps us to bring us back to the place where, God, I trusted you then. Mm-hmm. I can trust you now. You're not like man. You do not lie. Mm-hmm. You do not go back on your vows.
Bro.
Whatever you've spoken, you will surely bring it to pass.
Bro, I don't want to hear the truth right now.
That's basically.
Bro. Then I think too, to add to that, you got to have people around you.
Yes. That's the other thing.
You got to have community.
So what we talked about with the baby's birth and everything, and having community, that in the moment where we probably were a little bit like, what the heck, God, that maybe we didn't have all the words to pray. There were people praying for us.
Yes.
And so when you isolate yourself, that is a dangerous place to be in, because you don't have that community to lean on to say, I'm going through it and I don't have the words to pray right now. I want to not hear the truth and I want to wallow in what I'm going through. I need some people that are going to pray the truth and speak the truth. And
then going to like church and big things and mega churches, so on and so forth, right? I was watching Lecrae's his deconstruction video, right?
I hadn't watched any of them.
I haven't either, but I for whatever reason I was watching that. And he deconstructed his faith. However, he has his community. So when he was going off on the deep end, like he was hiding all that from his two or three friends, his community. And then when he finally decided to be free of it, like he told his community, his community held him down, right? And then also like you go, like this is Western church, right? You go to the Eastern church, Eastern Orthodox, or on the other side of the world, like in China, like they're having house churches, right? So you're not going to see them, out in the corner. They can't. But how do they have church? They have church and houses. They have community, right? So even with like the mega church, how do you make the mega church like grow? Like Greg Laurie still has a big church, a large church, and they're thriving, right? They're thriving because they're preaching the gospel and they have that discipleship aspect, right?
They're having community in houses and homes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if you think that the pastor is how great, pastors are loving, pastors are, right? Pastors are, the shepherd of a large flock, right? And so like to really care for each and every individual, it's not realistic.
It's not realistic. No one human being can do that. No. That is God's job and God's job alone. So he will send people to you, different people for different people, different folks for different strokes. But to have one person of, let's say, a 5,000 person church, and to think,
or a couple or whatever,
right? Yeah. To think that person or those 3 people or those 4 people that are at the top are going to be the ones that specifically pastoring on the daily. That is, you're putting them on too high of a pedestal, and they're not God, and they're not able to do that.
Nope, they're not.
Nobody's able to do that. So it's creating community within those larger groups as smaller groups.
Yeah, and that's what they did with in Jesus Revolution. Like that's Lonnie had his little group that he had.
Greg had his group. Greg had his group.
Right, and so that's how they had community.
And they wound up popping up, and other groups wound up popping up in Texas and this Florida and this place and that place.
Impact, and they didn't know they were making an impact. But they were very much
from a magazine article. That's why I say Jesus don't need your hand touching. No. He don't need you to prophesy over every single person in the room. He just needs willing and obedient people, right. And he will use them how he chooses to.
Whether that's being obedient, like we saw earlier in the movie, Lonnie turned around and it appeared that God was like, oh, boom, right? Okay, there's somebody here, so he's healing people. So, but the funny thing about God is he's not predictable. He is, but he isn't, right? If he solves an issue this way one time, right? That doesn't necessarily, if you get in a predicament again, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to use the same method.
Right.
So if you got healed from I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like,
there's also for me, I think one of the big things for me, and you had fallen asleep because you had already watched it. You'd already finished the rest of it, but I was like, oh, Chuck just put him on the stage and he wasn't being discipled.
Oh yeah.
And so
he said he wasn't ready and he apologized for that.
And so, but Lonnie didn't want to hear that. No, this is on me. What? Excuse me, sir. How are you? Okay. You've been saved for all of 3 seconds. Calm down, sir. Calm down. That's one of the big
things. Say that God can't use those people.
No, God can use anybody, but that doesn't, everybody needs to be discipled.
Right. Yes.
Everyone needs to be discipled.
That's right.
Everyone needs accountability.
That's right. Facts.
Period.
Facts.com.
Everyone needs a covering.
Yes.
Because, and so not only can God want to do a different way, but if you have a covering that you are bumping heads with, God is not in the midst of that.
God is a God of order.
Order and unity.
That's right.
Where there is unity, God commanded a blessing. And so God can't bless something that's dysfunctional, disunified, divisive. And usually that's pride comes in and brings that. It brings those things. It brings division. It brings disunity. It brings chaos. It brings confusion. Because you then think it's about you. And it's like, no. When we all remember that it's about him and him alone and what he wants to do because he loves his children and how he wants to use us to show that he loves his children.
Overall, man, I thought it was a good movie. If you haven't seen it, I would watch it. It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
And it's very inspirational to those saints who've been saved for a long time. My challenge to you is challenge. I love you, man. My challenge to you is to chickity check yourself before you wreck yourself. No, I'm playing, but check your heart and see where you're at, right?
If you're stopping those people,
Yeah.
the outcasts from coming in the doors.
And check the simplicity of it, right? Are you living life? Are you living a simple life, right? Are you living the gospel as a simple? Are you taking, and that's for everybody. This is for everybody. Me, you, everybody. The gospel is simple. When we read the text, let's read it for what it is in context though, okay? But let's not
in its entirety.
Let's not put extra juice on it, right?
Or take away.
Or take away. It is what it is. This is my Bible. It is what it says it is. I can do what it says I can do, right? Yeah, today I'll be taught the word of God. How do I know it? I never went to that church. I don't know, from Houston. But anywho, like take the simplicity. If you're living a convoluted life, right? And it's like, oh, the gospel is this, that. Or the Bible says this, that, and you have all these rules and everything on that, right?
You're constantly arguing with people
about it, right? Man, take a fast from that and just trust God and ask God to make His word simple to you. Help Him to take you back to when you were first saved, and help you to live out of that heart posture. Think about that, man. Like to have the season, right? To have the years of being saved, but then to have that same zeal and that same fervor that you had when you first got saved. That's what I strive to do. That's what I want to do this year. And hopefully I can maintain that and just live out the rest of my years, my long, illustrious life, unless Jesus comes back, right? Just
when
I say, oh yeah, when, yeah. If He comes back in my lifetime, that's what I mean. But yeah, man, I just want it to be simple. I don't want things to be complex. I don't want to be stressed out about things. I just want to be at rest in His peace. And so for those things, Philippians 4, to think about whatever is good, whatever is lovely, whatever is praiseworthy, so on and so forth. That's what I strive to do this year. And I hope that I can add it to my spiritual walk and my spiritual journey. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
That's good.
That's that. Just wanted to share this with y'all. I hope that you have found this helpful. Until next time, I'm Sean.
Join the conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Join the conversation. Have any questions?
Comments.
Let us know. Talk to us. Holla at us. Okay? Until next time, we love you.
Bye.
Bye.